Outsiders issue 8, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with Robert Carey on the art. So, this issue focuses on Batwoman and Jenny Hex, funnily enough. It explains how Batwoman got there about halfway through the issue, but the issue just begins with almost like a sort of standoff style moment with Batwoman walking down sort of the desert road. The sun's behind her, and Jenny's pointing a gun at her, and they're in this small desert town. It's called Zero, the town. And
Zero, Texas.
Zero, Texas. And it's a bit of a standoff, and it's like, wait, why? What's going on here? And it turns out the story's actually about the fact that Jenny's been haunted by several ghosts, and only her special gun that she found in the trunk, which this was kind of interesting to me, is that it finally kind of answered one of the things that was in the trunk back in her introduction in Young Justice. So that's interesting. But she basically, this gun that she has is the only thing that actually deals with the ghosts. Doesn't get them permanently, but it does make them go away. So you get these blasts of light whenever she fires on them. So her and Batwoman end up running to an old garage or something like that, and getting inside. And they get to talking, and Jenny's like, how did you even end up here? And Batwoman explains that it's a mutual friend. So we flash back to 2 weeks ago. Because remember, of course, Batwoman quit the team.
She quit, she wasn't having any of this multiversal shenanigans, continuity. She's had enough.
Yeah, she just flat quit. But 2 weeks ago, she got a call from Jenny Crisis, the woman from the Century Baby issue, who is out somewhere in a war-torn country using her abilities to try and help. But she's like, hey, she explains that whenever she's like not in like a populated area, she can sort of tune into the vibe of the world a bit better, and basically she can sort of sense things calling out, or people specifically calling out for help. Not that they're actually asking for help in terms of choice, but just the idea that she can tell that someone needs help. And effectively she explains that she's getting this vibe from I mean, I don't even know if she knows her name, but basically Jenny Hex, and like, hey, there's this problem in a town, she needs help, and your team should be on this, because that Jenny's calling her thinking she's still part of the team. And we see that obviously Jenny Crisis is doing well with her powers. She seems to take out some trucks with the big energy blast, so she's getting to grips with what she does.
She's adjusting to it now, right? Like, I like seeing that, is that they introduced her and she was a complete mess. She didn't understand what was going on. But now that she understands, she's kind of embraced her role. And it's almost like she's trying to get Kate to embrace that role as well. Like, you know what you have to do. Are you going to help me or not?
Yeah, and I like how she describes it as well. She says, there's this girl, and there's like there's a gun, and like there's echoes like through the reverbing through the world with every single shot of this gun. Like, the way she described it was kind of like vague, but kind of cool. So it comes back to them sitting in present day, and Jonah Hex's ghost shows up, and effectively what we find out here, and I will do a little critique here, because it does the thing that I hate in comic books, where they decide they want to have part of the story as if it's an old journal or something like that. So we get like 3 or 4 pages of like prose of like Jonah Hex's diary, effectively.
So I get where you're coming from on that one, like that Morrison Joker issue from way back in their Batman run. I fully get that. Here, because of the state of what the story that Kelly and Lansing are telling and how it plays with the art form, I don't mind it here. I don't want them to do this all the time like it's a cheap trick.
Don't get me wrong. This is by far not the worst offender of this. There was an issue American Vampire did a few months ago that was way worse than this. This isn't too much text per page, and at least I get that they're going for a vibe, but it's still, a part of me is just kind of art realm. Like, I'm here for a comic book. Stop giving me paragraphs and paragraphs. Right? But it's 3 pages, and effectively what we find out is that Jonah Hex found this gun, and once he started using it, every person the gun kills, their ghost effectively gets tied to the gun and will haunt the person who wields it. And that became a thing, and this was the gun that ultimately killed him. Now, I don't know if he specifies that he committed suicide with it.
That's what he hints at. I don't think he outright says it, but he hints at it.
Yeah, but that was the only way to finally like finish it, right? So Jenny tells the story of how she ended up using it, like, because she wasn't supposed to use it, but it was in the trunk.
Yeah, because she had the space guns. right?
Yeah, she had
to introduce it, like blasters.
She had other stuff, but there was a burglar in her apartment, and she just kind of on instinct went for the gun and shot the guy who broke in, and that tied her to the gun. So now she's been haunted by all these ghosts, and it's actually. Yeah, I mean, he basically says this will never go away until you're killed by the gun. But Batwoman's got another idea. Batwoman grabs the gun and says she's a bat with a gun, and then shoots Jonah Hex with it, basically tying the ghost to her as well. And she's like, "What are you doing? You're crazy." So we get these panels of like Batwoman just running away from the ghosts, like on a bike, and like firing the gun back, and all the rest of it. But yeah, basically she gets surrounded by the ghost out in the desert. She's taken this burden from Jenny, because my assumption here from this is that she's actually inherited the curse, so it's not affecting Jenny anymore. No. Jenny's now free of it.
It's almost like It Follows, right? Where
a little bit,
it's been passed on, right? Like, so now the ghosts are haunting her, and that image of her going through and just all the different blams, right? And then you turn the page, and it is like something out of a Western where she's far off and she's surrounded.
She's surrounded by
nowhere to go.
It looks like hundreds of ghosts. It looks like she's surrounded by a crowd in a big circle. And that's when she calls the outsiders, right? And obviously she just leaves a message. She doesn't actually get to talk to anyone. And it looks like something bad's happened to the others, because we see Luke's glasses on the ground, and we see some paper on fire. And then the last page is is this big cannon, and it says "Next, the Lost City of Cannon." Now, I chuckled at this because it made me think of Cannon Films, the studio.
Yes.
When I got a chuckle thinking about them going to investigate the films of Cannon and like all the bad Chuck Norris movies they made.
Yes.
But but it's this idea. She looks down at the gun, and she calls them and says, "Look, I ended up in a ghost story. I didn't really buy into all this stuff, all this stuff that Drummer, or whatever her name is, as she puts it, is spouting. But I want to help solve the situation, right? But so this is the issue that's very focused. It tells its own story, which I thought was very good at, and then kind of motivates Kate by the end to actually reach out to the others and like, hey, I've got this weird situation. I think I may actually need your help now, and maybe I was wrong to leave the team, right? It kind of inspires her to reach back out.
The last line is about, none of us can afford to go it alone, right? So she tried to get away from all this weird stuff, and the weird stuff found her anyways, right? So why it's trying to pull her back in, and that they're going to be stronger together than they are alone.
And for drama's sake, of course, when she does call them, it might already be too late, and like something bad's happened to them. Now, obviously, I think they'll be fine ultimately, but
I think ultimately somebody got upset and tried to throw the journals in the fire, and now they're going to go get water to put the fire out. Personally,
I feel like there's a more ominous tone here at the end than that.
Of course there is, but and the velocity of canon with what Kelly and Lansing have been doing with the story form. I'm wondering if this is going to be like, because it looks like a fortress type city, of like how things have to adhere to certain canon, and if not, they get blown up by that gigantic actual canon, But yeah, I loved all the Jenny stuff. The page with when Jonah Hex first shows up, before all the journal entries, and she goes, "Holy," and then it has it blacked out. You're him. You're Jonah Hex. And just that whole moment, it made Jonah Hex seem like a big deal, right? Like, you don't have to know who Jonah Hex is, right, or anything like that, but the fact that Jenny's acting like that to this ghost that's walking through, it made it seem like a big deal. And then when they start talking after all the journal pages, this is where it hints that he turned the gun on himself, because he tells Jenny, "I'm sorry, but you can never put that damn thing down. End of the day, the last life it took has to be yours." So basically, this curse was done, right? And that's why the gun was in the trunk. And then when Jenny used it for self-defense, right, it got now passed on to her. So yeah, it definitely made me more interested in reading Jonah Hex books, because that's one blind spot in DC that I've never jumped into. So, but yeah, this is Outsiders is still continuing to be a lot of fun to read.
Yeah, I think it's bouncing around different things. I liked how focused this was in one simple idea. I think all my favorite issues of this book have been the ones that have been more focused, whether it was the Century Child issue, this issue, or the issue where they go to the town of like out of continuity, whatever it was called. Those have been kind of my favorites, and I think it's interesting that this. I actually felt like it advanced Ginny's story more than Young Justice ever got around to doing, which is kind of weird, but I mean, that's just one of the complaints we had of that book at the time, sadly, despite wanting to really like it. So, thanks, Bendis, I guess. But, yeah, I thought this was an interesting story, and the idea that this is now something that Batwoman's got to deal with going forward is kind of interesting. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we know it's only 12 issues now, right? That's been confirmed. So we got 4 issues left. Yep, that's right. So it's
that's how math works.
Yeah, it's building to something, right? I mean, I think it does feel like it is building to something, whatever that story may be. The art here is pretty solid. I think. All the stuff with all the Western style stuff is good. I mean, obviously the stuff with Jenny Crisis and like her letting off her powers is fun, but to me, where it really shined was the standoff at the start, the bright sunlight, all the Western style cinematic framing of the close up of the eyes and then the gun and all the rest of it. What I also especially liked is when it cut to the flashback with Kate 2 weeks ago. The color palette completely changes because it goes from all the Western colors of the oranges and the sunlight and all that to blues and greens, the cold, cooler middle of the city of Gotham kind of thing.
Also, I didn't expect Kate to live in like a sad bachelor's apartment. That's just like a couch and Chinese food on the being left out. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I don't know, maybe it's a gay thing. maybe lesbians are like single bachelors.
Maybe I just thought with her military training and all this other stuff, like it'd be Spartan, but it wouldn't be as messy and sad looking.
Well, she's missing a video game console sitting on the floor.
Yeah, with the TV that's on the floor too.
Yes, like who needs furniture? You just need a TV and the video game console.
My brother lived like that for like 3 months so, when he moved back out from Hawaii. So, he's like, why do I need to look up at the TV? I can just sit at the same level. And I was like, all right, man, you do you. I'm not judging. I mean, I was judging, but not to his face.
Yeah. So no solid issue. It's been a very intriguing book. What are you going to rate Outsiders, Matt?
I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm even tempted to go up to the 0.5, but I think just for those journal pages making me read more, I'm going to say 8 out of 10.
I got into this to read pictures, not to read words.
Yes, come on, it's a comic book, damn it.